Have you ever taken on a video client that you knew was paying too little? Or have you ever pitched a price and the client just replied yes, so you thought, damn, I should have charged more? Well, if you just answered yes to either of these questions, then listen closely, because in this video, I'm gonna show you the negotiation tactics so that never happens again. Let's get it. So first of all, let's talk about the importance of negotiation, because negotiation is not just about getting the best deal or getting the best price, but it's also about setting expectations, setting boundaries, and making sure that you and your client are both on the same page for the project. Now, when it comes to the negotiation part of a sales call, an example, preparation is absolutely key. And there are a couple points that are important for preparation, but the number one point is that you must know your worth. Ideally, you don't charge for your time, so no hourly rates, no half-day rates, no daily rates, and you don't charge for a project, but instead you charge for the value you provide. Now, I have multiple videos on my YouTube channel about how to charge for the value you provide, but this is the ideal. Know your worth, know what kind of value your services, your videos are going to bring to the client, and then charge them based on that. Another key thing for being prepared to negotiate is to know the client's budget. That's exactly why you should always follow the 3-call structure: discovery call, strategy call, agreement call. Because in the discovery call, you ask the client, hey, what is your budget for this project? And typically the client's gonna answer, well, we don't really have a budget, we just wanna know what it costs, right? And then you cannot be the person that just gives a price. You say, well, look, it's kind of like with buying a car, you know? I must know what kind of budget you have so I can give you the best car for that budget. And then if the client still doesn't give you a number, you give them a high price anchor. So you tell them an example, well, look, a project like this typically costs something around the range of $10,000 to $15,000. You say that when you typically charge $5,000, because that gives you room to negotiate or to put a project in place that is a little bit lower than what you just said. And speaking of this, it's also important when you prepare for negotiations that you set your limits. You must know what is the absolute minimum price that you're going to accept, and if that price is not met with the budget, then you're not going to take on that client. That's the cool part about being a freelancer, about running your own company. You can decide what clients you work with and what clients you don't work with. And if a client doesn't meet the budget requirements, well, then you say no, you decline them. And that actually brings me to the next point, because when it comes to negotiation, it's also very important that you have clear and direct communication. Be clear, be direct about what you want to get out of this deal and about the value that you're going to provide to the client. Now, in order to ensure that you actually are going to deliver value, you want to make sure to listen carefully. Listen carefully and take notes. Really try to diagnose the client. Ask them questions about their goals, ask them questions about their problems, their challenges, all these things, and what kind of things they want to get out of this project. And this ultimately leads to you knowing what kind of value you bring to the company. And in addition to that, make sure that you stay professional, because it's so easy to become emotional, right? An example, if somebody has a way higher budget than you thought and you get euphoric and that makes you unprofessional, or the other way around, the client has a way too low budget, or they tell you a way too low budget and you get angry or pissed because this is not a great client, You cannot become emotional. Make sure to stay professional, look at it from an objective level, and do not put it on a personal level. Nobody wants to personally offend you, they just want to get a great deal. So you want to get a great price, make sure you master the art of negotiation and asking questions. Now, when it comes to the actual negotiation tactics, as I just said before, if for some reason you have to name a price first, make sure you set a very high price anchor. If your average project is $5,000, set the price anchor at $12,000 to $15,000, and then have room to negotiate down if needed. If the client says, well, $12,000 to $15,000 is doable, then you say, cool, boom, you just cracked the jackpot. So let's say you now know the budget, you know everything, you have talked to the client, challenges, goals, etc., and you're in that call, and you present 3 different ideas in the strategy call. One very important tool that you need to use as a salesperson is the pause. Don't try to fill in gaps. Let the client think, let the client speak first whenever you say something important. When you drop the price, shut up. Wait for an answer, because this is very, very powerful. This builds tension, and tension is good in a sales call, especially then when the client has to break that tension because they cannot stand it anymore. It is a little bit uncomfortable for both parties. It's uncomfortable for you and for the client, but if you're aware of it and you just stay silent, the client's gonna break it. And whoever breaks that tension, they're the party that's actually gonna just agree to the deal that the other person proposes. And also, don't be afraid to pitch way higher projects even though your client's budget is lower. So let's say your client's budget is $5,000. Now, when you're in a strategy call, you should be presenting 3 different ideas. Idea number 1 should be in the range of $5,000, if you can do that as your minimum price. Idea number 2 should then be in the range of like $8,000 to $12,000, and idea number 3 should be in the range of like $18,000 to $25,000. Why? Because you will be surprised how often a client is actually going to pick the biggest package, even though they initially said their budget is only $5,000. Because if you pitch bigger ideas, bigger projects, they're going to jump on the train sometimes and they're going to be like, wow, okay, this is amazing, we want that. And suddenly, magically, out of nowhere, more budget appears. Now, speaking of more budget, which leads to ultimately you making more money as a creative, well, you should probably consider the Video Business Academy coaching program. If you're interested in that, it's a coaching program for videographers and filmmakers around the world to add an additional $10,000 a month within 60 to 90 days. And we have a 100% success guarantee. If you want to check that out, I recorded a free video training. It's linked right next to me. You can go click and watch that right now. I'll see you there.